into this draft class. And so I think we're going to go in draft order. So obviously, the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to go first.
Yep.
Uh, so Trevor Lawrence, obviously, I mean, we talked about it before the draft.
Yeah, there's not too much even I think analysis to go in there.
Yeah.
Is the Jacksonville had to take Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
I think their draft didn't start until their second first round pick, which they picked Travis Etienne.
Hmm.
What was your overall thoughts on this pick?
I thought it was an interesting pick.
Hmm.
I like the reunion of the two guys, and I thought Travis Etienne was the best running back in the class. Um, However, I would have loved to see a weapon, a different weapon taken here. I know I kind of talked about him a little bit with the Packers, but I would have loved Elijah Moore in this offense. To me,
Yeah,
him and Kadarius Toney were neck and neck. They're
yeah,
both just as elusive. They can play that same position. But I think Trevor Lawrence would have liked Elijah Moore maybe a little better. And then I think you can still get Travis Etienne at the 33rd pick.
yeah.
I mean, maybe
And
somebody trades up and takes him, but then you can get, was it Michael Carter, the guy out of North Carolina?
yeah,
And then Chuba Hubbard was a guy later, Trey Sermon from Ohio State. I mean, there were plenty of other options, and I think teams have proved that you don't necessarily need to draft a guy super high for him to be successful.
yeah.
Um, so for me, I liked the player. I just thought the pick could have been better. And then I don't really like the Tyson Campbell pick. I thought that was a bit of a reach for him. To me, he was a bit stiffer. Is he the one that ran like the 4.29 or whatever?
Uh,
Or
I can't remember to
I,
be honest.
I know he's a big lanky guy. He's a little stiff.
Yeah,
And for me, I think that's what's going to get him hurt is the fact that he's a little stiff in the hips.
yeah.
And that's kind of why he wasn't with some of the other guys. Um, but
It's kind of one. It's like I like Campbell as a player, but I feel like, and they ended up addressing offensive tackle with their
mhm,
next pick, just 12 picks later with Walker Little from Stanford.
yeah,
But so they did address both positions. I feel like cornerback wasn't a huge position of need of theirs, but I could see the kind of raw athleticism coming from
hmm,
Campbell, where they want to maybe add some depth in there and develop him. But for me personally, because you could have gotten Tyson Campbell with the 45th pick, but
hmm,
with Kevin Jenkins still sitting right there,
yeah.
I think he was probably arguably the best offensive lineman available
Hmm.
at that time.
Well, so I will say Walker Little was a guy I had pretty high on my board, and getting him at 45, I think is like kind of right where you should take him. I think he's in that Tevin Jenkins conversation. He's a
Mhm.
bigger offensive lineman that's very physically dominant and still pretty athletic.
Yeah,
Maybe Tevin Jenkins is a little bit better, but actually I think getting him at 45 is a pretty good value. Um, but I think they had a good draft after that. Luke Farrell out of Ohio State in round 5, just kind of a receiving tight end, is a little bit quicker.
yeah.
But all in all, I think they did a pretty good job to set themselves up to grow and compete. Not this year, but in like 2 years.
Yeah, very diverse
Hmm.
draft class for sure. I mean, touching almost
The,
every single aspect of the only aspect that they didn't really touch was any linebacker positions.
yeah.
Uh, but the Andro Cisco pick, I liked as well. Jay Tufili, I think if he would have played this year, probably could have actually uh, raised his draft class. But a solid uh, defensive tackle out
Hmm.
of USC. But yeah, all in all, I think it was a good, just a good overall draft. They got good talent with every
Yeah.
pick. We'll have to see if it was the correct pick as their careers kind of pan out. But for
Yeah.
me, I'm giving it a B plus. I think it was very
Hmm.
kind of straightforward. Um, but and Trevor Lawrence as well. It's the easiest first round pick
Yeah, yeah.
of
I
all time.
mean, obviously, I have no quarrels with pick number 1. I wouldn't have drafted Tyson Campbell at 33. I would have tried to grab Travis Etienne there, and then maybe draft a different receiver. And for that reason, I'm going to go with a B.
Mhm.
I just think you could have gotten better value for the running back position
Yep.
because that position is so replaceable. So,
Yep.
and you already had a guy in not C.J. Henderson. I forget, they had a wide running back breakout this year.
Cam Robinson.
Yeah, Cam Robinson.
Yeah.
Uh, and so I didn't necessarily feel that was like the biggest position of need, but I think Travis Etienne is definitely an upgrade, and
Yeah.
so uh, I do like that player. Um, where do you think that they finish? We still have a few more minutes left on them. So where do you think that they finish this year coming into the draft or coming
Well,
out of the draft?
uh, like record wise or divisional wise or both.
Uh, both.
Well, so divisional wise, I think they could potentially um, be second in the division.
Hmm.
Houston's going to be the worst. Houston's probably going to be the worst team in the league.
Yeah.
I think the Titans are going to regress. I think they lost too much, especially then with their offensive coordinator Arthur Smith
Hmm.
going to the Falcons to be the head coach. I think that is going to be a surprising impact and difference that they're not going to realize because one of the advantages, and we'll get to the Titans here in a second, but was his diverse playbook that he was able to utilize. But they lost Jonnu Smith and Corey Davis. And I think they're going to be relying heavily on Derrick Henry to have a 2,000-yard rushing season again. And
Hmm.
they're going to have a tough schedule. Winning the division, they're going to have the toughest schedule out of all the teams from the AFC South. And
Hmm.
Jacksonville's going to have the easiest because they're
Yeah. I mean, they were the worst team in the league last year.
yeah they're worst team in the league, and they're going to be playing all the other worst teams from opposing divisions.
Hmm.
So
So I agree with you. I think they could finish second. I don't think they're not going to be anywhere near. I think the Colts, but
no,
I think they could compete with Tennessee right now. Um,
yeah,
I mean, their offensive line is pretty solid. They'll have a good run game because they have a good offensive line, and then Travis Etienne is an upgrade. And their defense is young and hungry. Uh, I mean, I think they could go 7-10.
I think that would be respectable. I mean, and they're starting out where they're playing the Texans, the first game of the week. I think the first game of the season. I think they can win that. Then they're playing the Broncos, and they could also arguably beat the Broncos as well.
Yeah.
Um, they have some games, especially at the beginning of the season, where they could contend,
Hmm.
and it could be potential uh, um, uh, uh, some potential victories early on.
Hmm.
And then as the season goes on, you start to get into a rhythm. They face other teams. Injuries start to happen. But Jacksonville, I think, is going to be very interesting to come out. I think a lot of it, you're going to have these young players and see how they develop. I'm more curious how Urban Meyer is going to do as a coach
Hmm.
because very few college coaches have had great success going from college to NFL. Pete Carroll is probably is the best current example right now, and I'm sure other people can comment on in examples that I'm missing. Did John Harbaugh also coach in college, or did he go straight to the NFL?
I don't remember.
I can't
But
remember either. Um,
but it has been an interesting transition. I mean, Nick Saban, John Harbaugh went from NFL to college. I don't know if he went. Uh,
well, he went college, NFL, college.
oh, he did. Okay.
Yeah, I think he
Uh,
went 1 year in Miami. Or no,
but yeah, to me, Jacksonville has the biggest amount of question marks. But I also think that they could, if they put it together, they could be pretty good. Like
yeah,
they could be just, I mean, middle of the road this year, but in a couple years, and they could be
yeah.
something to worry about. So,
Yeah, especially in one of the weaker divisions. I think the Colts are going all in right now to try and win a championship, but I can see them dying down a little bit. Uh,
yeah.
but their defense isn't really is no slouch either. Uh,
Mm-mm.
they had an okay defense last year, and I could easily see them improving, especially with some of their draft picks from this year with Andre Cisco. I think probably being the
Mm-hmm.
best defensive player coming out of that draft as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, a lot of potential out of them. I will say they will be very fun to watch.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
really looking forward to watching them.
Yeah, I think they're going to play very fast. I That offense has the potential to put up a lot of points. It really just depends on how fast Trevor Lawrence can pick it up.
Yeah.
But anyways, I think the Jaguars set themselves up pretty well for the future. And I think they will win that division in a few years.